Hello everybody and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm really excited because I'm going to be making red pork tamales. Now I grew up eating these. My mother would make the best red pork tamales and she still does. However, she doesn't make them like she used to before. So now I'm going to try and carry out this tradition. Now she would always go and make her tamales with fresh ground corn masa that she would get from the Molino or the mill. And it made the best masa. And she'd come home, she'd prepare it, and she'd sit there and knead that dough or that masa for a very long time. You know, then she would simmer all of her pork and with all her seasonings. Nothing was ever cut short. She would grind everything in the molcajete, and it just made the best tamales. I am going to try and replicate some of my mother's tamales. However, I'm going to be using instant corn masa because it is more readily available. And I believe we can also get a great, delicious texture and flavor with instant corn masa as well. So if you're interested and you want to see how I make these red pork tamales, stick around because I'm excited to show you how.
Okay, these tamales came out better than I thought. They are meaty, they are delicious, and they are the right texture. Let me show you how I made these. So good.
All right, for our ingredients, we're going to need about 6 to 7 pounds of pork shoulder butt roast. I'm going to be cooking this in our pressure cooker. I'll probably have some leftover meat as well. I'm also going to be using some onion, some tomatoes, some garlic, tomatillos. I'm also going to use comino seeds or cumin seeds. These are whole seeds. I also have here some chile de árbol. I will not be using this, but I do recommend it. My kids love tamales, but they won't eat them if they're spicy. But definitely use them if you like spicier tamales. I'm also going to be using some guajillo chilies. I'm also going to use chile ancho. Now these are dried chili pods. Also, we're going to use some tomato bouillon, some chicken bouillon. I'm also going to use salt, baking powder, some bay leaves. We'll also use some instant corn masa for tamales. Now, I do know that you can use different types of masas, but for this specific recipe, we're going to use the instant corn masa mix. We're also going to use some corn husks. Now, we will have to wash these and soak them. This is about 16 ounces. Also, we're going to be using some black pepper that's not here, and we're going to be using some lard. I'll probably use about 1.5 cups of the lard. So I don't know exactly how much of each measurement I'm going to be using of these ingredients, but I will definitely post it down below in the description box. So make sure you check the description box for the exact measurements, and I'll also probably tell you along the way as I'm making this tamales. So let's get started.
Okay, so I've cut all of my pork into chunks and I've trimmed out some of the fat, not all of it, but some of it. And I'm going to be using my pressure cooker to cook this in. So I'm going to go ahead and stick all of this pork along with the bone. This is that bone, and it'll give it some good flavor. So I'm going to put all of this in here. Now this might be a little bit too much meat, but you know what? While the tamales cook and the masa comes together and everything, you know, we can eat some of this shredded pork, or I can save some of it for a different recipe.
Okay, so I'm going to add 1 whole onion, 1 head of garlic, 4 to 5 bay leaves. These were little, so if yours are larger, you don't have to put this many in there. I'm also going to add 1 tablespoon of salt and 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon. I'm going to fill the Instant Pot with about 8 cups of water. Okay, we're going to close. Make sure that the lid is locked. Make sure that your seal is closed at the top. And we're going to set this to high pressure cook for 55 minutes. Once this is done, we will let it sit and do a natural pressure release for 25 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so while my pork meat cooks in the Instapot, I'm going to go ahead and clean out some of these leaves here, or these corn husks, or whatever you want to call them. Now, you don't have to cook your meat in the Instapot. You could also do it over the stove. Same way, just cover and simmer it for about 2 hours. That's the only difference. So here, I'm just going to wash these just to get all the dirt and the hair off. And then we're also going to soak them in water. Okay, so I got all of my leaves nice and clean. I wish I had a bigger bowl for this, but I don't. So I'm gonna try to submerge them here in hot water. I've boiled some water in my tea kettle here. Be careful, it's very hot. And I'm just gonna go ahead and fill up this pot, or this bowl, with this hot water. The hot water is just gonna help them get softer faster. And I'm gonna take this other bowl and just set it right on top there. I'm gonna cover this one up with water too, just to make it heavy. And we're just gonna let it sit here for a good 2 hours. Okay, so we've got our meat cooking. We also have our corn husks soaking. Now it's time to make our salsa. This is gonna be good.
Okay, so I have washed my tomates and my tomatillos. Make sure when you remove the husk, you clean those tomatillos good because they do have a sticky film on them. I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning my chiles. So I will be using about 12 chile guajillos. These are small, so you might need more or less depending on how big yours are. This is a 4-ounce package of chile guajillos, and I used almost all of them in that package. Here you can see that it is a 4-ounce. I'm also going to get some of the chile anchos out. This is also a 4-ounce package, and I'm going to be taking about 5 of these. So now that I have my chiles, we can go ahead. Also, don't forget, if you have the chile de árbol, you want to add those if you want it to be spicy. So let's go ahead and take all these chiles off my cutting board, and I'm going to go ahead and start removing all the seeds and the veins that are inside. To make this process easier, I will be using some kitchen scissors. I will cut right through the center, and this is going to make it a lot easier to remove the seeds and those veins on the inside. So make sure you get everything clean. If you need to wear gloves, you can. However, these chiles are pretty mild, so they should not irritate your skin. I'm going to work through and remove all the seeds out of all of these chiles, and then we will take them on over to the sink to give them a good proper rinse. Okay, so we have cleaned all of our chiles, and into this pot I added the tomatoes, the tomatillos, and all of those chiles. Now we're going to take it to the stove and we're going to cover it with water. I used about 5 cups of water here. Okay, so once it's filled to the top, we're going to set this on high and we're going to bring it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to cover it and I'm going to shut off the heat and we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes.
Okay, so this has come up to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. We're going to cover it and we're going to let this sit for 5 minutes. Okay, so this has been sitting here and soaking for about 6 minutes or so, and I'm going to go ahead and transfer all of this that you see in here into a blender.
So let's go ahead and add all of this to our blender. along with the tomatoes, tomatillos, and chiles. They should have gotten pretty soft by this point. I'm also going to reserve some of this chili water that's in this pot. And I'm going to add about 1 cup of this chili water to the blender as well. In goes a 1/4 piece of onion, 6 garlic cloves, 2 teaspoons of cumin seeds or comino seeds. I'm also going to add 1/2 tablespoon of the chicken tomato bouillon. In goes 1 cup of the chili water where we boiled our chiles. And we're going to blend all of this for a good 2 minutes or until we have a very smooth sauce. Alright, now I am going to strain this through a fine mesh strainer to get it even smoother. I want to take out all the seeds or any pieces of chile that were left behind. Okay, so we're going to pour this through that fine mesh strainer. I have a pot on the bottom to catch my salsa, and this is going to ensure that we get a very smooth salsa. I don't want any chunks of chili flakes or seeds in my meat filling. So we're going to do this, and with a rubber spatula, I'm going to push the salsa through to help along the way. Okay, and I'm going to take about a 1/4 cup of that chili water, and I'm going to add it to my blender cup just to make sure that we get any of the residual pieces out of that blender cup. And it's also going to help me strain the rest of the salsa. This is the paste that's going to be left once you're done. This took a good 8 to 10 minutes, so just be patient. And we are going to go ahead and discard this. We no longer need this. Also, another good tip is sometimes our strainer will get kind of clogged at the bottom, so take a spoon or something and scrape all that down as well. We want to keep that too. And we'll get rid of the rest of this paste here. This is what our salsa is going to look like. This is what we'll be using for our pork mixture. It's going to be good. Okay, I'm going to release the steam to our Instapot. It had time to sit for about 20-30 minutes after the timer went off. Let's go ahead and open this. And we're going to check to make sure that this is nice and tender. We want the meat to fall apart very easily. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove the bay leaves, remove this garlic, and remove the onion just to make it easier. I'm going to fish out all of the meat. Now be very careful because it is very hot and it's very tender, so it'll start falling apart on you. I'm going to go ahead and empty it into a bowl. You can see the meat's just falling apart on that bone. And I'm going to let this cool down a little bit. So we're going to leave it there, and I'm going to go ahead and strain out this broth. We're definitely going to keep the broth, and I'm going to catch it with a different pot. So let's strain out the broth, and we're going to reserve it. We're going to be using this to make our masa for the tamales. It's our beautiful broth, and let's reserve that. I'm going to go ahead and get started on shredding this pork. Now you can definitely put this in a mixer, but I like to hand shred it because there are these little pieces that I do not like in our in my pork tamales. So I'm going to pick through all of this, take out all the fat, and reserve the meat that I'd like. And once we get it all shredded, we're ready to combine our salsa and our pork filling.
Okay, so we have all our meat cooked. Now we're just gonna go ahead and fry this with the salsa to prepare it for the filling, so we can start making the masa after that. So let's go ahead and prepare our pork.
Okay, so this is our pork broth, and I'm going to skim some of the fat. I don't know if you can see that fat. I'm going to skim some of that fat to put in our skillet. I grabbed about 1/4 cup of that fat. Now I'm going to fry our salsa. Save about 1 cup of it. Okay, and the rest of the salsa, I'm gonna go ahead and fry it. Okay, we're gonna bring this up to a simmer. Okay, so I have this on a medium heat. As you can see, it started simmering. So I'm just going to fry or simmer this salsa for about 5 minutes. It's gonna help to thicken it up. And then we'll go ahead and pour in our pork. Also, while this simmers, just keep stirring it around because you don't want it to get bitter at the bottom. Don't forget, just keep stirring. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. Our sauce has been simmering, and I am ready to put in our pork meat. Okay, so here we go. Mix it all in there. And we're gonna fry this for like another 5 minutes. And we're gonna continue to cook this for 5 minutes. But I am going to taste it at this point for salt and pepper. I'm gonna try it right now, and we'll adjust the salt and pepper. It's so good. I am gonna add 1 teaspoon. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Go ahead and throw that in there. Give it a good mix. Okay, so I've retasted it for salt now after that, and it is perfect. And as you can see here, the salsa has kind of thickened up. This is exactly where we want it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. And set this aside, and we're gonna get to making our masa.
Let me give you guys a close-up of this. It tastes great. I cannot wait. It looks delicious.
Okay guys, to make my masa, I'm gonna be using my KitchenAid stand mixer. You can definitely do this by hand. Just know that you're gonna be, kneading or the dough for about 20 to 30 minutes by hand. We're gonna use a KitchenAid because it makes my life a lot easier. So let's go ahead and get started in making the masa.
Okay, we're gonna start out by adding 1 cup of pork lard into our stand mixer. So in goes another ½ cup of the lard, and we're going to go ahead and attach our paddle attachment, lower it down, lock it in place, and we're going to heat this on a medium speed for about 5 minutes. Okay, so this has been mixing here for about 5 minutes. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add our baking powder. I am going to add about 5 teaspoons of baking powder. And we will continue to beat this on a medium speed for an additional 2 minutes.
Okay, so you can see the texture, and the texture in here is now like cake frosting almost. So now we're ready to add in our masa. So I'm using this masa for tamale instant corn masa mix, and this is what I'm going to be adding in. I'm going to use probably about 6 cups of this, but I'm going to alternate between this and the pork broth. And I'm also going to be adding in some of the salsa that I reserved. I'll put it in the description so you know.
And then I also have that pork broth in here as well. So into our mixer, we're gonna go ahead and add 2 cups of the instant corn masa. And I'll probably go ahead and add 2 cups of the pork broth. Okay, let's give this a go. And we'll continue alternating. So here in a little bit, I'm gonna mix this for about 5 minutes. I'll stop it and then I'll add the rest of the masa and the broth and the salsa. We're gonna start out slow. That way you don't end up with masa everywhere. I'm not gonna add any salt to this because the baking powder already gives it a flavor, and that broth already has a lot of that, the salt in the broth. So let's get this going.
Okay, so this has been beating here for about 5 minutes. I'm going to take the time to scrape down my bowl to make sure everything is getting combined. So scrape down the sides and scrape down at the bottom just to ensure everything is combining properly. And I'm going to continue adding the ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and add in more of the masa. I'm going to go ahead and add the full 3 cups of masa here. So this has been a total of 6 cups of masa going into our mixer. And then I'm also going to add 1 cup of the preserved salsa. This gives our masa color. That's what makes them red. And I'm going to go ahead and add, I want to say 2 more cups of our broth. Let's give this a mix and let's continue to mix for an additional 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so I can tell that this needs more liquid. So I'm going to add 1 more cup of our pork broth. So just to keep count, we've added 1.5 cups of pork lard. I've added 5 teaspoons of baking powder. I've added 5 cups of our pork broth and 1 cup of our salsa, along with 6 cups of the instant corn masa. So now that everything is in here, we're going to let this go for an additional 10 minutes. Here we go.
While my masa is mixing in the stand mixer, I'm gonna go take care of those leaves. Make sure that they're nice and dry and pliable.
Okay, so our masa has been in the mixer for a total of 20 to 25 minutes. I think this is ready, but there is a little trick to make sure that it is good to go. We're gonna grab some of this masa and we're going to put it into a cup of water. So they say that if your masa floats, that you've made the perfect masa for your tamales. So as you can see here, we are passing that float test. We are good to go. Okay, check out the texture of our masa. It is very fluffy and it just looks really good. It's going to spread like butter on our corn husks, so this is exciting. Let's continue with our lengthening process here. All right, so now we are ready to embarrar or fill our pork tamales. We've got our masa, we've got our pork filling, which is delicious, and then we also have our corn husks here that I've dried them. That way the masa can go on very smooth. Now there's 2 sides. There's a smooth side and there's a rough side to the corn husk. Make sure you spread your masa on the smooth side. This is important. So let's grab some of our masa. Now it doesn't matter how much you're putting on there. Really, it's all by preference. What you do want to make sure is that it's nice and even, so that way it cooks evenly. So to do that, I'm going to be using this tool here. This is going to help me to spread it out evenly. You can also use the back of a spoon. That's how my mother did it. But I have this really nice cool tool, so that's what I'm going to use. If you guys know what this is called, leave me a comment down in the on the bottom and let me know, because I have completely forgotten what this tool is called. So we're going to spread this out as evenly as possible. It's going to take some time. You're just going to need to practice, and when you make tamales, you'll be making a lot of them, so there'll be plenty of practice time. You can see here it's spread pretty evenly. I'm going to add some of the filling. Again, this is all preference. Put as much or as little as you like. I'm going to fill this up because I don't want to be here doing hundreds of tamales, so I'm going to make mine rather large. I'm going to fold it in on one side, fold the other side in, and then fold the tail up, and there you go. We have a giant tamale here. I'm going to set them on a baking sheet, and I'm going to continue on with the rest. I'm going to use my little scraper here to pick up any of that masa. And again, make sure you're using the right side, which is the smooth side. This one is a little large, so I'm tearing some of it off. I'm going to reserve that. We can use it later. I'm also going to spread it out and grab some of our masa. And we're going to spread it with our little handy tool here. Try to get it as even as possible. Now there's no trick here. Just try to spread it as even as you can. If you need more, add more. I felt like it needed some down below, so I've added a little bit more. Also, make sure your corn husk is dry, because otherwise this masa will slide right off of it. So make sure you dry them well. Spread it on. And just like that, we're ready for our meat mixture. So fill it in. This is making me so hungry. It looks so good. Fold over one side, fold the other side over, and bring up the tail. And there you go. So I'm going to continue to keep going until I use up all my masa and all of my pork filling. Here we go. Wish us luck.
Okay, so you're gonna get the biggest steamer pot that you have, and you're gonna fill it with water just until it reaches the bottom of your basket. Okay, so you're gonna do it like that. Then we're gonna take some of the leftover leaves and we're gonna place them at the bottom just to kind of make a bed, just to kind of block some of that water from seeping through. We want to kind of just push them down there like that. We'll take our tamales and I'm gonna just stand them up. You can lay them down. I've never done them laying down, and I thought about it because sometimes when you stand them up, the masa tends to run down. So I don't know. You can try it. I'm gonna do it standing up. That's how I've always done it. I'm gonna fill it until it's all full. I'm gonna keep going. Look at how these look on the inside. So delicious. I cannot wait to try these. Okay, so we've got all our tamales there, and I'm gonna go ahead and take some more of the leaves. I got a lot left. I got a big bag of them. I don't want to push it down too much, but I am gonna just kind of try to tuck them in right on top. And then another thing that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna take a clean tea towel and just put it right on top. I'm gonna bring this on over to the stove. Let's go ahead and pop this on high, and I'm gonna get the lid. I'm going to set our lid, make sure it's sealed tightly there.
Okay, so I can hear that the water has started boiling down at the bottom. So I'm going to put this on a medium to medium high heat. And we're going to let this go for 2 hours. Now, sometimes the water will dry out, so you will have to add more water to the steam pot.
Okay, so I started this process around 10:30 this morning, and it is now about to be 6 o'clock. So the tamales are almost done, but I just want to say that if you decide to make these, make sure you set a good amount of time. You know, this is going to be an all-day thing, but it will be worth it. Give it a try. I think you guys will like it. Okay, so our tamales have been cooking for a little over 2 hours, and they're finally done. I went ahead and turned this off. And you know that your tamales are done whenever this husk pulls off easily from the masa. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove all of these leaves. Delicious. And I'm gonna let these rest for a good 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna remove them and set them out to cool down. Okay, so these are done. I'm gonna go ahead and open one up so you guys can see the inside of it. Okay, let's go ahead and try one of these. Should just come right on out like that. Looks good. And don't forget to get that extra piece of masa on here. We worked too hard to not eat that. Cut this through so you guys can see how meaty they are. Let's give it a try. Okay. So normally I would like to eat this with some salsa, but I'm hungry. I've been waiting all day for these, so let's give it a try. It's a lot of meat in there. Hot. Very good. It tastes like the holidays. I'm used to eating these every holiday season, and they're delicious. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching today. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.